Monday, April 5th, 2021. The time is now 5 p.m. This is the Westwood Select Board. We are meeting via remote participation. This is pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 23rd, 2020 emergency order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation by the board. The functionality to allow for questions and raising of hands is available. If you have a question or a comment, please enter it and we will recognize you. This proceeding is being live streamed by Westwood Media Center. It will be recorded and it will be available after this meeting. I will start with an update on our annual town election, which will be on Wednesday, April 28th, 2021. And joining us this evening is our town clerk, Dottie Powers, who will give some more detail.
Thank you. I'd like to go, for those folks who were not on previous meetings, I'd just like to go over the change. Our annual town election has been changed from Tuesday, April 27th until April 28th on Wednesday, the following day. On March 25th, 2021, the select board voted to postpone the annual town election from April 27th, 2021 to Wednesday, April 28th, 2021. The vote was pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 5, Acts of 2021, extension of Chapter 45 of the Acts of 2020, Sections 1 and 2, 1A. The reason for this was Westwood Public Schools are planning to return to full in-person learning 5 days per week starting today. Due to COVID-19 protocols, the Sheehan School and the Downey School gymnasiums are being converted into temporary classroom space, making these spaces unavailable as polling locations for the annual town election. In order to not disrupt its established polling locations, it was determined the town would need to seek out an alternative plan for the annual town election. Westwood Public Schools has a staff professional day scheduled for Wednesday, April 28th, and there will be no school for students that day. At its meeting on March 25th, the select board voted to change the date of the annual town election from Tuesday, April 27th to Wednesday, April 28th. As a result, the town can proceed with voting in person for the annual town election on April 28th without any disruption to established polling locations. Now, there's a few dates that I want everybody to keep in mind. The most important is that you're a registered voter and that you do have up until Friday, April 16th, 11:59 p.m. to register to vote. We will be hosting an online in-person registration, practicing all social distancing on that day, Friday, April 16th, from 2 to 4 and from 6 to 8 p.m. There are a few opportunities in which residents can vote if you're not comfortable with going to the polls on election day. There's early voting by mail. The last day to submit an application or any other form of written correspondence requesting a ballot to the town clerk's office will be on the 22nd of April by 5 p.m. There's also absentee voting by mail, which is very similar. However, absentee voting by mail has very clear qualifications. That being you are away from the town on election day, you have a disability that keeps you from voting at your polling place, or you have a religious belief that prevents you from voting at your polling place on election day. For any elections that are held through June 30th, 2021, the state law clarifies that any person taking precautions related to COVID-19 qualifies for an absentee ballot by reason of physical disability. The same deadline applies for that. It's April 22nd by 5 p.m. Now, the only difference with absentee voting is you are allowed to vote by appointment only in person, and the deadline for that is on April 27th, the day before, at 12 noon. There is also going to be early voting in person, and that will be held at the Gillette Meeting Room at the Westwood Police Station, located at 588 High Street. The times for those, and this is, again, this is no excuse, absentee voting in person, is Friday, April 23rd from 2 to 7 p.m. Saturday, April 24th, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and Sunday, April 25th, from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. So there's quite a few ways that you can vote if you're not comfortable voting on election day. If you are comfortable voting on election day, I want everybody to know that it'll be safe. We take all precautions for the safety of the residents as well as staff. And polling locations, all 4 will be open, and that's precinct 1 is the Council on Aging, precinct 2 is the Sheehan School, precinct 3 is the Hanlon, and precinct 4 is the Downey. Polls will open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. If you have any questions pertaining to the election, you need an absentee ballot application, feel free to call the town clerk's office. The number is 781-326-3964. You can also receive an application by going to the Westwood Police Station. They're on the lobby there. Or again, just calling the town clerk's office. You can come by, pick one up, or we'll mail one out. Thank you.
Thank you, Dottie. I know that's a lot of work. Really appreciate everything you and your team do.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions? No? Okay, we're going to move on. Our first scheduled action is a change of officers for Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza. Nora, I think you're taking this solo.
I am, yes. The
Okay.
attorney, Joe Devlin, has a conflict, and he asked if you have any questions that I can answer, you can continue it, but it's a pretty basic change in officers down in the Fort Lauderdale area. So previously, Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza has been managed by the LLC manager and president, Wayne Jones, and that's being changed to a new title and a new person, LLC manager, president, and CEO, and that new person is Ian Baines. And then the LLC manager and treasurer had been Rebecca Cooksey, and she's being replaced by LLC manager, treasurer, and CFO, Patrick Renna. So it's 2 changes that affect the company as a whole, but don't individually affect the Westwood management. The local management remains the same.
I think we can handle that one. Any questions, thoughts?
I'll just ask, what kind of local, as in the state of Massachusetts, Commonwealth review of them has to take place? Does the ABCC do anything?
ABCC has to review the application, yes. And so that was one thing Joe said. He'd happy to have a continuance if you have questions, but if you don't have any questions, he would prefer if you approve this all at once, because every Anthony's in Massachusetts will have the same change, and he'd prefer to submit all of the application changes to the ABCC together as a single package.
So our approval is pending that approval.
It is.
Yep. Yeah, okay, just wanted to be clear on that. I'm good to make a motion if you're ready,
Okay,
Mr.
yep.
Chair. Okay.
Thank you.
I move the select board approve the change of officer application for Ian Baines as president, LLC manager, president, and what's his other title, CEO?
He is CEO, yes.
Okay, and Patrick Renna as LLC manager, treasurer,
And CFO.
and CFO for Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza of Westwood LLC, pending the Alcohol Beverages Control Commission approval.
And I'll second.
I'll call the roll. Mrs. Hyde,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you. Thanks, Nora.
You're welcome.
And then next we have Lifetime Fitness, a request for use of temporary outdoor space. And I know we are joined by Dylan Reed. And Dylan, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And just a quick question though, our agenda has the spelling of your last name is R-E-E-D and you have R-E-A-D.
Correct. Yep, it's how it's spelled on the screen. It's read like read a book.
Okay, so we will correct that. Thank you. Why don't you tell us what's going on?
Sure. So, I mean, due to COVID and obviously being out of our club a lot with the restrictions, we're looking to kind of continue what we had going last year. We were able to hold some classes in the parking lot. So just want to go through the right way of doing it, go through the proper permitting. So to my knowledge, everything's been signed off by police, fire, building, health. So just waiting approval for that, but we are going to do it the right way. We have Jersey barriers that we're going to have out pending approval so that the cars, it separates where the cars are, as well as proper spacing out there and everything else. And it's in an area where it's spread out, like not in a direct driving lane. So overall, we're trying to do it the safest way possible. Any questions I can answer based off of that?
Are you opening the summer club, the pool and the?
Yeah, so May 15th, we'll go through that pending all of our inspections and everything else with the Board of Health and the building department, everything. But yes, we will open the exterior pools on May 15th is our goal right now.
Good. I'm glad to hear you're
Yeah,
able to
no,
get
it's
programming.
great. Yeah, we're starting to get back to some sort of normalcy, which is good.
Yeah, in our, Nora, in our materials, it says that the previous approval we granted was not followed up on, but Dylan, I think you just said that you did hold some outdoor classes?
It was pending, so we had gone through the whole approval process. This was before we knew we had to go through the whole approval process. So we went through the process after, and it was pending us changing the barriers. We had some metal barriers around there. And it did go, I think, all the way up to you guys. I think Scott from our real estate development represented Lifetime, but the only thing that was contingent was the change of barriers to these bigger Jersey barriers, which we're planning on putting up this year.
Yep, so you didn't have classes outside at all with the prior approval? You never went?
No, I mean, no.
Yeah.
So we're looking to have them this year.
Yeah.
I believe there were a couple of classes last year that they didn't understand the barrier
Yeah,
requirement.
yeah.
And then we came
yes.
to the select board, asked for approval. You granted approval subject to inspections by the police, fire and building. Police required these heavier barricades. And then Lifetime decided it wasn't worth their while to put
Yeah,
this up, but this year they'd
correct.
like to do it again. So I'd ask that you
see.
again grant approval subject to those inspections, and we'll just make sure that there'll
Thank
be
you, Nora.
water barriers, I believe, this time. So.
Correct. Yep. So there'll be about 1,000 pounds filled with water.
Okay. Michael, any questions?
No, that's done. Thank you.
Okay. Take a
Okay.
motion.
I move we approve Lifetime's temporary use of outdoor space application to hold outdoor exercise classes through to October 1st, 2021, or until 60 days after the end of the state of emergency, whichever comes first, all pending inspections by public safety departments in Westwood.
I'll second.
Call the roll. Mrs. Hyde,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Dylan, thank you. Good luck.
I appreciate it, everybody. Thank you very much.
Bye, Dylan.
Okay, good night. Okay, hi Kathy. I have Kathy Foley, our Assistant Town Treasurer with us. I see Jim Gavin, our Town Treasurer, and Pam Dukeman. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you for having us.
There you are. Okay.
We have some super good news tonight. So we're happy to go through that with you. I am
Perfect.
just going to share my screen. We just have a real quick presentation, if that's okay.
Perfect.
Oops. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So we did 2 weeks ago, sold some debt for the town, a long-term bond of 7.7 million and a one-year short-term note for 4.4 million, and got some terrific interest rates on that. And we do want to go through that with you tonight. First, before we sold the debt, we did have to undergo an updated credit review. So we did undergo a credit review with Standard & Poor's. It had been, we had not had our full credit review since 2016. We have not sold any long-term debt since then. And that was kind of, this was our first full one since University Station came online, as well as we were undergoing this credit review during COVID and all of that uncertainty. So it was a very important credit review for the town. As the board knows, the credit review is really a pretty rigorous process. They go through all of your finances and financial practices. Our finance team and our town management team made a comprehensive presentation to S&P. So on our call was Chris Coleman, myself, Jim Gavin, Kathy Foley, Marie O'Leary, our town accountant, and Laura Bukhari, our budget analyst. We had sent material ahead of time to S&P, all of our CAFA budget documents, our policies, OPED information, our 5-year capital plan, all of that. It's a very rigorous process. And so we go through an analysis where they're looking at all of our information and they want to hear from us. So we did a very intensive presentation to them talking about not only our results, but what is our process, what's the select board's process as far as handling the finances for the town. So S&P in particular is looking at some of the things we've listed here. What do we have in reserves? What's been our efforts on OPEB? Are we set up to sustain financial practices? What's our budget policies? Are we meeting our collection rates? Are we monitoring our budgets? Do we have processes in place to get good budget to actual results? And then what was our process with COVID? How were we handling that in town? Were we able to continue operations? What did it mean for us financially? So there was a lot of material they were going through. And we're super happy to report that when they completed that review, we did have our AAA rating reaffirmed. That was really important, again, because we've not had one in a 5-year period. We've not had one since Westwood Station really coming up online. And again, during COVID. We have sent out previously the write-up that S&P did, and that is now on the town's website. But they did reaffirm the town's AAA rating, and they cited the following areas. Conservative approach to budget management, very strong management with strong financial policies and practices, strong budgetary performance, very strong budget flexibility, very strong liquidity, very strong debt and contingent liability positions. So that's our OPEB and pension and that type. As the board knows, AAA is the highest rating you can get for a municipality, but it's also an excellent rating for a small community like Westwood. And it really reflects on what we're doing day in and day out. Really the select board sets the tone for how the town is going to handle finances. And the board has set a very high bar for the last several years. And when the tone is set from above, we then have our other boards and appointed and elected officials carrying that out, our management and our staff, and really our residents too. Everyone contributes to get a small town a AAA rating. So it's really, this is a great reflection on all the work that the town's done for the last several years on all those areas that I just mentioned. Our annual budget, our OPEB, our reserve accounts, how we handle our town meeting and budget process. So it's a great reflection, again, the tone set by the select board, the Finance and Warrant Commission doing a great job to have professional process for our town meeting, and then all of our elected officials who contribute to that. I do also just want to thank our finance staff in our various offices, our assessing department, treasurer's office, collector's office. They really do great work day in and day out to really make sure our daily financial practices are in place. So they're making sure that we're, billing and collecting and balancing out cash and receivables and all those things day in and day out on a very set basis. They do a great job with all of that. Maria Leary does a great job of making sure our, weekly payroll and accounts payable all work smoothly and that we're constantly monitoring our budget. So really, we were super pleased to be able to retain the AAA, especially again during COVID, and because it had been a long time since our last rating. The high rating really helps the town to get the lowest interest rates and do the best when we do go out and sell long-term debt. So it really results in savings for our residents. I'll pause before I move on to the actual debt. I don't know if Jim or Kathy wants to add to anything I said or anything I missed.
I think it sounds good, Pam.
Okay, so then moving on, once we had our credit rating, we could go out and actually sell the bond. So as I mentioned, we sold a long-term bond for $7.71 million. It was a competitive sale on March 23rd. The town received 5 bids. The winning bid came from Fidelity Capital Markets, and our net interest rate on that bond was 1.148%. And you'll see some of the terms of this bond are long-term. There's a 20-year portion of that, 1.148. I will mention that the $7.7 million is what's called a resize bond. Our bonds now are sold. Our language at town meeting speaks to if there's any premium received in the bond structure. When the bidders bid with the interest rate and premium, if there's any bond premium, it is applied back into the bond and reduces the amount we actually borrow. So that's all rolled in. So the $7.7 715 provides the money for Wentworth Hall, which was approved at the 2018 town meeting. We borrowed that for a 20-year term. For that project, we borrowed $1.8 million. It also is for DPW road work that was approved at the 2019 annual town meeting. That was issued for a 10-year term, $895,000. And if you recall, that actually was approved for $900,000. We're only having to borrow $895,000 because of the application of the premium that was received. There was a DPW truck for $325,000 approved at our most recent town meeting last June. We actually do not have to end up borrowing or paying anything for that truck. The premium received reduced that full amount. So we would have had to borrow $325,000. We are not going to have to make any payments on that truck going forward because our premium was able to cover all of that. Then two other components, those were the new pieces of debt issued. Two other components that were just terrific. We were able to refinance the Thurston School modular debt and the new library bond. So with the refinancing, or refunding is a term that they kind of use, we interchange it. We're essentially able to go out and refinance debt that was already outstanding. There were 8 years remaining on the Thurston School modulars. So what we have now going forward for those 8 years is just over $1 million, $1,068,000. And the library bond, we have 10 years remaining, $3.9 million. So those components listed there are what make up the $7.7 million. I do just want to highlight on the refinancing piece. So the 1.14 interest rate is terrific, but going out and refinancing or refunding these two components of the bond really got significant results. So the original Thurston modular bond was a $3.5 million bond issued back in June 2009. And the library bond was a $9.3 million bond issued back in March 2011. Refinancing those at this point down to the 1.14 interest rate results in total budget savings for those two debt pieces of $1.12 million. So we would have paid $1.12 million more over the life of those bonds if we had not refinanced. So the Thurston modulars with 8 years remaining, it will be $369,000 in budget savings. And for the new library bond, 10 years remaining, $759,000 in savings. That's higher because the original bond amount we were carrying was a larger amount. And I'll point out the library bond was exempt from Proposition 2.5. So that means with that $759,000 in savings, we will now raise that much less from our residents over the next 10 years, or about $75,000 less a year. So again, money that was already planned for, voted as approved, we can now reduce that, what we have to collect from our residents, by $759,000. So tremendous results for our residents to get $1.12 million in savings from what we would have paid with this refinancing. And I just want to point out, this is the second time that Treasurer Gavin has been able to go out and refinance or refund some bonds. It's a complicated process. It's a little different than just kind of going and refinancing your mortgage. Just the way the bonds are structured and originally sold, you can only do it once during the sale. It has some complicated pieces. For example, with the Thurston modulars, we have not yet made the debt payment in this year. We have to factor that into the refinance, so we have to put that money in escrow. It can be a little bit complicated, but it results in tremendous savings. So Treasurer Gavin, again, this refinancing saves $1.12 million. He also refinanced the high school bond in the middle of that 20-year bond. He refinanced that in 2012, and that saved $2.7 million in interest because that was such a large bond. I know some of you were on the board at the time. You remember that 2.7, some of it was the town's savings and some MSBA. And they were thrilled with us for being able to do that at that time. So the refinancing can be a complicated process, but it results in huge savings to the town. So we are certainly grateful that Treasurer Gavin, pushed forward to do it, even though it can be kind of a complicated process. So then just the final piece, that was the long-term bond, the same day, with a separate sale, we sold a 1-year short-term note for $4.45 million. Again, a competitive sale on March 23rd. We received 6 bids for that. The winning bid came from TD Securities, and the net interest cost on that bond is 0.249%. So that's all we will be paying to borrow. Basically $4.5 million for 1 year is 0.249. And again, just this bond is for, we rolled a short-term note we had for the Hanlon feasibility project, $950,000. And then the majority of this $3.5 million is for the road bond that was voted at last spring's 2020 town meeting. So again, this gives us the short-term money at an extremely low interest rate. Come next year at this time, we will roll this note into long-term debt. So I think that's it. So again, a lot of work, first with the credit rating, to make sure they knew everything that the town has been doing, for the last several years with our finances, and then the structure of this bond and some of the complicating pieces, but particularly the refinancing to get that done and to get the low interest rate and the savings that we were able to get has just been great. And I can stop share. Okay.
It is great, Pam. It's amazing work. And the town is so fortunate to have this team because the money you have saved alone it's just amazing. It's such great work. I mean, there's nowhere to go but up. So we're counting on Jim Gavin to get the same interest rate when we finance the new school. But beyond that, I think, the story speaks for itself. There's not really much to say about it. Jim, do you want to add anything or commit to that interest rate?
I cannot commit to the rate, John, as much as I'd love to. But I would like to add, Pam and Kathy Foley in the treasurer's office do a fantastic job, and the whole financial team with Maria O'Leary and Leanne and Laura contribute to put together the massive amount of paperwork and information necessary to tell the story that we have. And then we have Pam, who does a tremendous job at presenting the story. And but behind all that is the financial disciplines that we practiced over the so many years now, and the planning and the reasonable budgets, and contributing to those reserve balances, and not using one-time revenues for operating budgets has paid dividends, and we're reaping the benefits of those dividends now in the form of lower interest rates, which save us hundreds of thousands, or in cases, millions of dollars. So couldn't be happier. The S&P bond rating is an arduous process. And again, Pam does a fantastic job, but the whole team was there. We had Chris Coleman for the first time joining us on that call. And, when you see great management, like Pam said, it starts at the top. And then we have a good team right there, in the offices doing a good job presenting it all. And we end up with a good product. And here we are with incredible interest rates, and hope for this in the future too. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy, Michael, anything?
Well, I'm in awe. This is such wonderful news and just reflects so well on the town. And thank you to everybody. I feel like I'm going out on top. This kind of is the culmination. It's lucky me. But I know this is sustainable. It is going to continue because of the discipline that you spoke about, Jim. Doing the things that we've been doing and sticking to it, and really looking ahead and saying, this is what we need to do to plan for our future. And then coming out and after a year of a pandemic that is still not done with us, I am really very, very proud, and just proud of all of you, and happy that this is the town that we live in. So thank you, everybody.
Now I'll just
Thank
echo that and say, it's a great team, and you guys work well with us. And, at times when we first come on, it takes a little bit of training, and, but the expertise you guys gave us all along has now proven the benefits. So thank you very much, each one of you individually and as a team.
So Pam, do you need a vote? You need a vote from us tonight?
We do need a vote.
Yes.
Okay,
So we did include in your packet, it's a 3-page vote, but bond counsel has said that you do not need to read it out loud. He gave us what the motion can be to vote and reference the printed document, which outlines each pieces of the bond that we just went through. Talks about the different pieces, the bond, the short-term ban, but he outlined that and did provide a motion that will satisfy your approval of the two sales.
And John, I have that. I followed up to just
have
get
it?
some
Okay.
clarification. So I'm going to start reading the 30 pages. Is that okay?
That's fine. Most of us will shut our videos off, but you keep
We
going.
can be here until tomorrow. I think they had to do that in Washington, didn't they? They had to end up reading going through the night, reading some lengthy documents, but this one is easy. So, and Pam, if I'm not reading from the right thing, pay attention to what I'm saying. It's what Tish emailed me earlier. So I move that the select board vote to award the bonds and notes and establish their various terms, all as set forth in the votes presented to this meeting that have been prepared by bond counsel to the town, which votes will be inserted into the minutes of this meeting.
All right, I'll second that.
Question or discussion? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Mrs. Hyde,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. So thank you all again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Good
see you
job.
soon. Okay, we're going to move on to the fire union integrated contract. Joan is with us.
Yes,
So Joan and Chris, this is nothing substantive. This is really, you just need us to vote on the document, which incorporates all that has been agreed and discussed in the past.
correct. The board has already voted on all the memorandums of agreement. This is
Mhm.
combining all those memorandums of agreement into one collective bargaining agreement.
Okay.
And
And
John,
is that typical that once you do the integration, will you like re-vote on the final document?
You revote your sign-in, and you're also going to sign the actual integrated
Got
agreement as well. And I
Okay,
believe
sorry,
you
Nancy.
need a wet signature for that, Pat, is that correct?
believe you would, yes.
Yes.
yeah, I just wanted to mention that I was in touch with Chris and Joan today, and in the future, there'll be more adjustments so that his and her are reflected appropriately. In some cases, it's not gender neutral like that, and it's just a mix within the document, but they'll take care of that in any future update when they can incorporate additional clarifications.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, do we have a motion?
Yes, I move the select board sign the integrated contract between the town of Westwood and the Westwood Permanent Firefighters Association, International Association of Firefighters, AFL-CIO Local 1994.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll call the roll. Mrs. Hyde,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you. Thank you, Joan.
You're
Well, you're going to join
welcome.
us
Thank you.
later, I think, too, right? Yes.
Yep.
Okay, we are moving on to discussion to vote and sign to post the 2021 Annual Town Election Warrant. And I think Dottie is with us.
Yeah.
Hi, Dottie. Welcome
Hi.
back.
Yeah, yes. So,
Anything want to add to this?
yes, we have the warrant ready for posting. This is to be held on the election, the last Wednesday in April, April 28th, 2021, from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. And the offices that will be on the ballot will be one assessor for a 3-year term, one housing authority member for a 5-year term, 2 library trustees for 3-year terms, 1 moderator for a 1-year term, 2 planning board members for 3-year terms, 1 planning board member for a 1-year term to fill a vacancy, 1 school committee member for a 3-year term, 1 select board member for a 3-year term, 1 sewer commissioner for a 3-year term, and 1 town treasurer for a 3-year term.
Nancy, Michael, any questions, thoughts?
No.
We're ready for a motion. We'll take it.
I move the select board sign the annual town election warrant to be held on Wednesday, April 28th, 2021.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Mrs. Hyde,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Okay, and then we're going to move on to the discussion for the purpose of
Mr.
voting. to
Chairman.
sign- Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
I think you're going to need wet signatures on this as well. So
Oh, I assumed so.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the discussion to vote to sign and post the 2021 Annual Town Meeting Warrant. Dottie, you want to add some detail?
yep, and the annual town meeting warrant is ready for posting. And that annual town meeting will be held on Monday, May 3rd. And that will be at 5 PM on Flay High Field.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
Since we're talking about labels and things, or I did earlier. Dottie, there's something in our packet and it refers to a section of, I don't know if it's our bylaws or our charter, but it refers to every town meeting shall be called by warrant directed by the Board of Selectmen. Have we updated our documents to reflect the select board as the current reference?
Yeah, in the forms that you're signing, we have,
Yeah, okay.
yes,
So this is just pulled from an old,
yes.
okay,
On the official documents, it is referred to as select board.
okay.
Okay,
And
we ready
then
for a motion?
Once you sign tonight, this will be posted by our constable. And it's posted online and in 4 public places equally distributed amongst the 4 precincts in Westwood.
Okay, so I move the select board vote to sign and post the warrant for the May 3rd, 2021 Annual Town Meeting Warrant, and for the warrant to be posted by the constables throughout the town and online on the town website.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Mrs. Hyde,
Aye.
Mr. Walsh,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. And so Tish, we'll have to make arrangements for us to sign those, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to the Memorial Day Committee update, and I see Michelle Miller with us.
John, did you want to
Michelle?
talk about the warrants at all? In terms
Oh, I'm
of-
sorry.
I didn't know if we were going to be discussing who should be prepared to cover different
Oh.
articles, given this is the only time we're meeting is just a handful of days before town meeting.
Okay, you're right. I don't have the list.
It's on page 78. Do you have
in
it?
your package,
So obviously we go through the first ones and they're Pam, right?
Yeah.
one through 12 are probably Pam, John. 13
And
would probably be the school committee for the bridge loan.
correct.
And then you have the street acceptance at Cranston Avenue.
I'll do that.
Okay,
And then the 2 taking ownership of the 2 large properties.
The large, yes.
yeah, I can take those.
And then the remaining ones are zoning articles. And I'm sure the planning board and Abby
Right.
and Nora will be involved in those.
And I think we're all in the backup position to Pam, should need be. Unless you just want to do that, John.
Yeah, I think I expect the only one that's gonna be an issue is the affordable housing allotment, but yes, we can be prepared to back Pam up. Does that help, Nancy? Does that
I
resolve it?
just thought we should,
No,
yeah,
it's a good idea. I
we don't
didn't,
have a very long list this year. It's just the usual practice to
yeah.
make sure we have some plan in place. So thank you.
No, I wasn't, you know what, because we're not meeting again until,
Just before.
29th.
The 29th.
right, okay. All right, so then we'll move on. Sorry, Michelle, welcome.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Hey, Michelle.
Thanks for being here. Do you want to give us a little update on Memorial Day planning?
It is. It's April, so Memorial Day is next month. We've had our committee meet twice so far. And in addition to our normal committee, we've brought in Jared Orsini so he can kind of guide us through this as we go, just making sure the priority goes on keeping everybody safe. So last year, very, very different. We were pretty new in terms of this COVID situation. So we, I think as most of you guys recall, we recorded the ceremony earlier and just put something online. By November, we had an outdoor ceremony, and it was smaller, as Veterans Day always is for Westwood, but really successful. And in fact, it was a lot more people than we anticipated. I think we were at a point in the world that people just were happy to get outside and participate in something with their community. And, you know, we actually had to go around and count people to make sure we weren't busting the limit, which is a great problem to have. So with those two things as data points, we got the team together and thought about how we thought we should go with Memorial Day. Our first thing was the parade. And while there's some guidance on parade out there from the state, some not. The group really felt like we could conduct a parade safely, but there's no way we could have spectators safe. There's no way we could socially distance, things like that. So everybody was pretty clear on, we thought the smartest and safest thing to do was to cancel the parade this year. We're just not at a point where we can have a parade safely. So moving on to the ceremony itself, we, looked at, do we videotape it again? Do we do it early? Kind of everything on the table. And everybody felt like, especially the success of Veterans Day, that we could go ahead and have a ceremony in the cemetery on Memorial Day. We would still have it recorded. Westwood Media always takes such good care of us, and that would be posted. But so we would recommend that we have that ceremony on Memorial Day. A few other things that we talked about was the team having a backup date, just in case something, COVID gets tougher, and, come May, we're in a bad place and we don't feel like that's a safe thing to do. Our team would have a backup date and we would record it. We'd do something that we did last year. So I don't think anybody really felt like we were going to be in that boat. We're making progress. So, so again, Board of Health right on board with all of these. He's also giving us very specific guidance about.
Oh yeah, it was updated.
Dottie, you're not on mute. Dottie?
So we also have, specific guidance on crowds, on, 3 feet versus 6 feet, all sorts of different things. And Jared's been right there holding our hands, making sure that, we really have our arms around this thing. So what we'd recommend is having that ceremony on Memorial Day. I think that we know how to do this, and we know how to do it well. So much like we've done every other year, we would invite our Gold Star mother, Mrs. Devlin. We would have, we'd like to look at a Grand Marshal. And as I think most of you guys know, a Grand Marshal takes part in the parade. And that's kind of a cool thing because they get to ride in the convertible, and, it's kind of nice to get to speak at the ceremony. Last year we had Harry Aaron, and we had asked him before. He wanted nothing to do with being the center of attention. And last year, because it was such a different scenario, he agreed, and everybody thought that worked very well. He's done so much for Westwood that we were really happy to have him as the center of attention. Our Legion commander, Dick Pastor, has somebody in mind as a Grand Marshal for this year. And again, we wouldn't have a parade. We would just, if he would like to speak at the ceremony, we'd certainly welcome that. But if not, we would just point him out, make sure he is recognized and honored. The gentleman we have in mind is actually a World War II veteran. So, it's probably getting up there in age. So we haven't confirmed whether he is interested and able to do that. So certainly we'll provide some updates as we go along. So that's sort of what we're looking at. Other than that, I think everything would basically stay the same for Memorial Day. Need to be a little bit more careful in terms of the band. We have bands in on the parade, but we also have our middle school, high school band participate in the ceremony. So we've gotten guidance on that, and we'll have to see what the band director, what their comfort level is, that type of thing. So I think we're moving forward with what we think is going to be an excellent ceremony.
Excuse me, Michelle, you also mentioned the start time for the officers?
Yes. We're thinking about 10 o'clock, since we don't have, we usually started the parade with the national anthem and the salute at Town Hall. We just started that at about 10. So instead of just, and then the ceremony afterwards. So we recommended having a start time at 10 o'clock for the ceremony.
That's great. Michelle, thank you for all the work on that. I think the only thing, what was nice last year is we visited some homes and left some things for folks who couldn't make it out. There was no ceremony to make it out to.
Sure.
But I guess this year, I know it adds a little bit of logistics, but if there are those veterans who are just afraid to come out, you know, you can count on all of us to help if you want to drop a plant off or something.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that it started as a let's recognize Mrs. Devlin, and you know, you guys have probably all heard me say this. She celebrates Memorial Day every single day, and so I really felt it was important for us to not let Memorial Day go by without thanking her for her service and her sacrifice. You know, as we started talking about that, our town administrator said, "Hey, I bet we can up that a little bit," and came up with a mini parade idea, and that just grew. Everybody who heard it wanted to participate, and John, you and your family were there. It was just a really, it was low key, but really nice way. And both of those families that we visited, they felt special, and they should. They felt really honored, and that was great. So we'll keep our eye open for any particular veterans that may not be able to participate. In this particular case, our potential World War II veteran, he does not live in Westwood. He's an American Legion member, but doesn't live in Westwood. So I haven't got the details on that, but it's unlikely we'd be able to do that type of thing just because of logistics. So, but I will keep in mind any veteran that kind of might need a visit.
So for the public, it's 10 a.m. on Memorial Day. Expect a ceremony similar to what we always had, but no parade
In the new
Yes,
cemetery.
in the cemetery.
at the
With
cemetery.
social
Yep.
distancing and face coverings.
That's great.
I'm sorry, Chris?
With social distancing and face coverings.
Yes. So a lot of you guys probably don't even worry about it because it's the usual advertisements go out in, you know, the Wire or the precursor of the Wire, a lot of different places. But that usually we just change the date. This year we'll be changing a lot of information of it. We'll be socially distanced, you know, we'll have masks, we'll be safe. That's all we're going to go ahead and do. So so we'll update that information. Any other questions?
Michelle, I think it's great, and it's one of the most beautiful days in Westwood. So it's really nice that a ceremony can go on. And even last year, it just was very meaningful. So thank you.
Yeah, you're most welcome. I think it's something the town really, really appreciates.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
we don't need to take any action, Chris, right?
No action, but if I could, Mr. Chair, I just want to thank Michelle and the Memorial Day Committee for their work and working towards having an observation where we can have more people than we did last year. So thank you all very much for your work.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. We're going to move on to the use of the field at 45 Clapboardtree Street.
John, I'm going to recuse myself.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'll let you know when to, or Chris will let you know when to come back. Chris, who's best to give us some description of this?
We have.
I can do it.
Okay, Pat, why don't you give us some
So-
detail?
So if you recall last year at town meeting, the only thing we could go through was the financial warrant articles. So the acceptance of the field was on and you had to get pulled because of the court order that allowed us to reduce the quorum. So in the interim, we're entering the spring season, although it might not feel like that early in the morning. And they want to start using the field. So this agreement is a stopgap measure that's designed to get us to the point where we can accept the field after town meeting. It's also written such that for some reason, if we don't accept the field at town meeting, it will continue through November, and we'll have to kind of revisit again, figure out how we want to do it. But that's where we're at. It's an operating agreement between us and Dan Green, and I foresee in the future to have an operating agreement with us and the condo trust down there to make sure that things run smoothly.
All right, great. Michael, any thoughts, questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay, do you want to make a motion?
Sure, I move that a select board authorize town administrator Christopher Coleman to sign the agreement for the use of 45 Clapboardtree Field, street field between Westwood Green LLC and the town of Westwood. The agreement will be in effect until the completion of the 2021 annual town meeting and acceptance of Lot 8, or in the alternative, until November 21st, 2021, if the town is unable to accept ownership of the property.
Okay, I will second and then call the roll. Mr. Walsh?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Pat, for all your work on that. I know it was a little complicated. Chris, you want to let Nancy know to come back?
I just did, yes.
Oh, great, thank you. Okay, so we are at meeting minutes of March 25th. Anybody have any edits?
I'm going to recuse myself from that since I didn't participate in the discussion.
Okay,
But
Michael, any edits?
No, I'm
Concerns?
fine with that, John, thanks.
Okay, do you want to make the motion?
Yes, hold on, I gotta get my screen again, hold on a second. Okay. I move that we approve the minutes of the March 25th, 2021 meeting as written.
Okay, I will second and call the roll. Mr. Walsh?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well.
and I
Okay.
recuse.
I don't believe we have any questions in the queue. Seeing nothing. Okay, so just for some business, the select board momentarily will be going into executive session, but we'll be returning to regular session. So at this time, the next meeting of the Westwood Select Board will be held on Thursday, April 29th at 5 p.m. via Zoom. At this time, the Select Board will be going to executive session to discuss one issue pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to discuss strategy with respect to contract negotiations with non-union personnel, discussion of which would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governing body if the discussion was in open session. The board will be returning to open session in a few minutes. So at this time, I will take a motion to go into executive session.
Okay, I move we go into executive session for the aforementioned reason.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Mrs. Hyde?
Aye.
Mr. Walsh?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Okay, we are ending this session of our meeting and we will be returning momentarily. The time is now 6:01 p.m. It is Monday, April 5th, 2021. This is the Westwood Select Board. We have just adjourned from executive session and we are back in open session for the purpose of voting on the fire chief's personnel contract. Chris, do you want to just give some highlights before we do that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so Chief Deckers has done a fabulous job with the department and providing services to the town over the last 3 years. What is being recommended to the board is a contract that will expire on June 30, 2024. We've conducted a survey and what's being recommended is within the compensation range of what other communities are paying fire chiefs with his years of experience. We're very happy with Chief Deckers and his service and specifically with the department and especially with the work that they did to provide vaccines when the town was able to provide a vaccine clinic. So there's a lot more positive things that the fire department has done over those years, just trying to highlight some of the recent work that they have done and led by Chief Deckers and recommending this contract to the board this evening.
That's great. Thank you. I agree. I think Chief Deckers does a great job, as does the entire department. So we're fortunate to have such a great team. So Nancy and Michael, I don't know if you have anything or you want to make a motion?
No, happy to make a motion. I move that the select board vote to approve and sign a new contract with Fire Chief John Deckers, retroactive to November 1st, 2021, and to end at the end of fiscal year 23. Is that right? On June 30th, 2024. Yeah, fiscal year 24. Thank you. So going through to the end of fiscal year 24, which is June 30th, 2024. Oh, let me start over.
Mm.
It's in two pieces, the motion. Now I understand what's before us. I'm sorry. I move that the select board vote to approve and sign a new contract with Fire Chief John Deckers, retroactive to November 1st, 2021, until the end of fiscal year 21, which is June 30th, 2021, and then a full 3-year contract from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2024.
Yeah, so the retroactivity though is to November of 2020.
Oh, and it says 21 in front of me. Thank you.
Exactly, yeah.
I'll amend my motion to say November 1st, 2020. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Michael?
Okay, I guess I'll second that.
Yeah.
Call the roll.
Not
Mrs.
by
Hyde?
final movement. Sorry, Michael.
Apologize for the confusion, Nancy.
No, it's all right. Aye.
Aye.
Michael? And I vote aye as well. Okay, thank you. That concludes our business for this evening. Our next meeting will be on Thursday, April 29th at 5 p.m. via Zoom, remote participation. Do we have a
Yeah.
motion to adjourn?
Don't forget to vote because we won't be back until after the election.
That's right. No.
Okay.
Election day is Wednesday, the 28th. Okay, motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second,
Okay, I'll call the roll. Mrs. Hyde?
Aye.
Walsh?
aye.
I vote aye as well. Okay, thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Good night.